Welcome to Post-Colonial Space. I'm Masood Raja. And today I am thinking of supplementing something that I had just shared with you recently in my conversation about how to cope with people who belittle others or workplace bullies, what causes their behavior. So I'd shared some reflective thoughts on it, but I realized afterwards, and quite a few people reached out to me, I realized that I had not really shared some of my personal practical coping strategies, which could be useful to a lot of other people as well. Now, please keep in mind that these are based in my personal experience. They might be informed by a little bit of theoretical and philosophical knowledge, but I do not claim to have any expertise in this, right? I'm not a human resource expert. But some things that worked for me, I think one, the most important thing that I realized was crucial for my mental health, but also that gave me strength, was to have lateral solidarities with like-minded people. So if I am part of minority faculty cohort in any given department, chances are that I have been working with other minority faculties on other issues. Chances are that we also probably have similar experiences. So my cohort at my institution was absolutely my first support group. These were the people I could go to, I could trust, and I could share my experiences with. And these were the people who obviously empathized with me, sympathized with me, but also gave me some practical advice and told me in no uncertain terms that they will be willing to take a stand with me. And so that was my first cohort with whom I could openly have a conversation. The other group that I reached out to were my friends, like from my workplace, with whom I had developed a history of trustful relationships, but who had left the institution. So I reached out to these people, told them about what was going on, and 100% of them were on my side, right? And having them on my side, even from beyond borders, right, was emotionally very strengthening for me. The third thing that I had not really thought about, look, I am a critic of power, right? So I don't cozy up to powerful people or powerful constituencies. But what I realized is that if you are being sidelined or silenced or targeted by petty managers, petty administrators, of course, we already have asserted that they are insecure, but they also have another disadvantage. They have a very limited worldview. Their worldview is only connected to that little territory that they control. But there are people above them, of course, right? Most of the times, people who are in the higher administration have a larger view of the institution, right? While your local administrators might see your role within a given organization as not positive, or your presence has a problem, on a larger scale, the way an institution represents itself to the world, that very thing that is being held against you could be seen as an asset by the larger institution, right? Diversity, for example, being diverse, doing diverse work, even doing radically progressive work, right? So, upon the suggestion of one of my dear friends who has dealt with these issues, I reached out to top administrators. And to my surprise, and I will give them full credit for it, that they didn't even spend a single day in responding to my request. I got a meeting the very next day, a 1-hour meeting with one of the most powerful administrators who heard me clearly, my grievances, my experiences, advised me with the view that this person has of the institution. So what it gave me then was this idea that sometimes, while our immediate supervisors who are from amongst us, right, may not treat us nicely or justly, there is no reason for us to assume that people above them, people who run the institution, will not hear us out. And the reason they will hear us out is because they have a larger vision. They think in institutional terms, and they value you in institutional terms. So keep those doors open. The most important thing is to continue doing work at that level so that people know you, people know your work, and people are aware of your presence on the campus. But do not foreclose that option. So the first thing, of course, have your friends, talk to them. Do not suffer through these things alone. No one should have to. But if you have faculty members that you can trust, who are your friends, or colleagues at work who are your friends, share your experience with them. Reach out to those who might have left the institution and see what their experience was. Will they take a stand with you? And 3, of course, reach out to the higher administration people so that your case is on record and they're aware of it. Another thing that someone advised me was to maintain records, right? Emails, everything else. If you're being targeted and it's subtle and you can't really pinpoint it, at least have all the records available. Because if it comes to a point where you have reached a point where you realize, no, I am going to challenge this within rules and within law, and I'm going to prove that this is, targeted, then you'll need that proof. And that is where your human resource department comes into play. Their job is to help you, performing your duties or to give you guidance. So in my case, I also reached out to them, right? And I sought their opinion. I shared my thoughts with them. They might have not been able to help me immediately, but all that conversation, of course, was on record, right? Which I can use. But another thing that I learned by reaching out to these professionals was that I qualified for quite a few exemptions according to the federal law based on some chronic illnesses that I have. And I had never tried to file anything or have it recorded. And so that enabled me to put that on record as well. So that if someone targets me simply because my chronic illness affects my performance, I can tell them, look, this is not intentional. This is what is happening because of my medication, because of this condition, right? So these are all the options that are available to you and should be available to us. And I think a cautionary note that I have here is that when we are being targeted or when we are being isolated, when we are being silenced, our inclination is to take it alone, right? To deal with it alone. That is how I was trained, right? But the idea is to not to do that, to have allies with you, to have people you trust, people who might have gone through the same kind of experiences and who would understand what is happening to you. So sharing your experience with select number of people you trust, part of your cohort, your friends at work and off work, is highly important for your emotional health, right? But also for you to develop strategies to cope with these things. So for example, I just mentioned to you that I met a senior administrator immediately after this thing happened to me, right? I would have not personally thought of that because that's not how my mind works. But when I talk to one of my friends who is experienced, who's confident, right, and who has dealt with these kind of issues, his suggestion was immediately to seek an appointment with a superior, right? Now that knowledge that he shared with me enabled me to do something that I might have not come up with. Another thing that I learned in this process was that if you are at a university, you obviously have a faculty senate. You obviously have some body that is run by the faculty. And these people, since they are elected by us, are also our allies, right? Reaching out to some of them and talking to them after you do some research is also something that will give you a feeling that you're not isolated, you're not alone. So these are some of the steps, I think, without going into specifics, that worked for me. And they worked for me in two ways. They worked for me in getting control of my emotional health, right? In getting control of my mental state, because I suddenly realized I was not alone. But pragmatically, they worked for me because these friends, these people, these allies were able to point me to resources, some federally mandated resources, some resources that might be unofficial, that could help me in this scenario in which someone had chosen me as a target, right, to teach me a lesson. And that is what I just wanted to share, right? And keep in mind, as I mentioned in the previous video, most of the times people who are bigoted, people who are mean, people who otherwise could be highly decent people, but somehow do not like a certain kind of person or a certain kind of demographic, when they are dealing with you, their actions are coming from a position of weakness, from a position of insecurity. And chances are that if you slowly and carefully point to them that you have allies, that you have a voice, that the law is on your side, right? And that you can take it and still come back as a decent human being and respond to them, I think that would baffle them, because what they are trying to goad you into is an angry response so that they can make your tone into an issue. But if you stay calm, collected, and professional, right, and then mobilize all the resources that I just mentioned, chances are not only would you be able to weather a little storm in a tin can, that in the future, the same bullies, the same people will be twice as careful before they even touch you or try to target you, because you have taught them through your alliances, through reaching out to higher administration, through seeking what your rights are in the federal law, through the body of your representatives, that you're not alone, and that if you are cornered or targeted, you are not going to take it silently, you're not going to lose your temper and storm off, but that you would deliberately respond to that, take your time, and take a stand. So that's what I wanted to share. Keep in mind, we idealize resistance as this one individual standing with their fist up. It's never really one individual, right? It's one individual along with 100 others, 1,000 others, right? So build your alliances, have close friends, know the difference between who you can trust and who you cannot trust, right? And it's very easy to see in any given organization who you can trust, right? Those who are already part of the system, of the petty power system, chances are you're not going to go up to them and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this person. No, you will go to people that you've already developed solidarities with. So that teaches us that we need to constantly keep building our solidarities, lateral and with people elsewhere. So these are some of my thoughts as a supplement to my previous conversation about how to deal with people who belittle others, right? Please do watch that video. I'll list it in the description, but I'll also post it it will show up on the screen, okay? And then let me know what you think. I hope these thoughts, scattered as they are of some use to you. If they are, do let me know. If they are not, even then, please let me know. If you have had any such experiences and have developed some other coping strategies, please do share those as well so that more people can benefit from it. And the reason I'm doing these things other than the academic materials is, of course, that we live in the world, we work in the world, we deal with other people. So this is part of our education too, how to deal with people who may want to hurt us professionally, who may want to diminish us, belittle us, and understanding why do they do that. And more importantly, how do we come together to fight against it, of all kinds of oppression and prejudice and discrimination. That's all. Thank you so much. Hope you're doing well, taking care of yourselves and each other. Continue to do so, and I will now see you next time. Until then, as always, peace and love.